Hey everybody, Alex Tarris here, healthhacksreview.com. So I had a chance to track down a Sun Stream sauna from British Columbia. It's a brand that we're seeing more and more of advertised on the internet, even though they've been around quite a long time, maybe 13, 14 years. Anyway, so in this video, I just wanted to point out a few different unique features because somebody asked me to do a review and take a closer look for them. As you can see, that's actually my ring light in the background, but I just want to make sure that y'all can actually have a really clear idea of the different features. So right here, this is unique. Haven't really seen this before in any models that I've reviewed. This is the backside of basically a carbon emitter on the front glass door, so it's mounted there. I would basically imagine that, you know, one of the nice aspects of that is that you get a lot of front body coverage. So if you're just sitting on the bench here, and we'll actually walk inside here so you can get the full effect. All right. So yeah, and I'm going to kind of give you an aspect ratio. I'm leaning against the back of the wall right now. I'm putting my hand fully outstretched in front of me. Okay. And if I lean forward, I'm going to say like maybe 5 inches or so. I can actually touch the front of that. That's with my arm fully extended. So that, in other words, that's close enough. And if you actually test out the sauna, you can feel it. You can really feel the radiance of this emitter right in front here. And just for reference, also here's where my feet are going. Okay. And again, you can really feel the intensity, the heat of this on your entire front body. Now, in a lot of saunas, you'll many times see, maybe in their 2-person model, not as often in their 1-person. This is a 2-person, by the way. Off to the right-hand side, a lot of times companies will try to stick like an emitter on just like either one side only, or sometimes they'll get them on the side there. One company mounts them in the corner. It's a ceramic. But basically, a lot of times you just get it on one side, or it's low down the wall. I find that quite common. If it is on the front, a lot of times it might be like around here versus up here. And now this, by the way, is coming to about, I would say, my upper rib cage, my sternum area. So you're getting more of your upper body with this. Again, a lot of companies, they just have them lower down the walls. And or the other issue with having it on the side here is kind of obvious. If I'm in here by myself and the emitter's over there or over there, a lot of that direct heat infrared, you might feel a little bit of it from my experience, but it's very faint. Normally it will just go to the side of you, okay? It'll just kind of bypass you versus having it straight on the center. So I do find this design very unique, but I think it's a therapeutically valid feature. Obviously, some features are just aesthetic, like this is therapeutic, technically. Not as crucially important, but if you're wondering what this is for putting your essential oils in, and then it heats it up and then it gets airborne. Obviously, you're getting an infrared sauna for infrared purposes. So that's why we're mainly talking about the emitters. And that's where it actually gets powered up. Just FYI, that's what that is in here. Anyway, so yeah, that's something to look into as far as, remember, in my surface body area, it's the front and the back, right? And not so much the sides. The sides are important, I think, to get a nice all-encompassing effect. However, it's really the front and the back where most of the surface area of your body is. So you can get a lot of exposure this way. Anything else I should point out in here at all? Everything else is kind of normal. You know, it's normal controller here. The only thing that's a little bit unique, let me see if I can get a closer image here. You see that 50% that's below the temperature and the time. So that has to do with your intensity. It goes in increments of 25%. Goes to the lowest 50. What is that? Well, that just basically means at 100, this is like the standard function. It's running the full wattage through the emitters. Okay, and that's normally how most saunas do it. They just run the full power. However, this sauna can be pretty intense with that front emitter also. So you're getting a lot of infrared. So if you're thinking, well, I'd like to adjust the time, but I don't want to adjust the temperature to find something comfortable for me. Let me just reduce the intensity. the actual wattage going to the emitters, thus the amount of infrared intensity coming out of them. So that's kind of like a third setting or third feature that's a little more rare. There's only 2 other companies I've found, 2 models, Sauna with their MPS Touch View controller, and Sunlight and Impulse, where you can basically do the same kind of thing, adjust the emitter's intensity in increments of 25. So that's a nice little feature. If you're wondering, that is what monitors the temperature in your sauna. Okay, you're going to see basically the normal thing up there: speakers, an air vent, another speaker. Which, remember, you can do Bluetooth, or you can actually put an auxiliary cord in them. Gives you the option. If, again, you want that lowest electrosmog possible, you just pop out the Bluetooth. These are standard lights. I'll just put those on for a second. Oh, got to turn on the power first. So basically normal lights. Now, if this company, I asked them, and if you do want to retrofit for chromotherapy, they'll basically give you the kit and the instructions, and you just pop them right in there on both sides. And that allows you to do chromotherapy and choose your colors, basically. Choose different colors. That's what that means. One last unique feature of the sauna is the covers. So 2 things you'll notice. You see that reflection? You see that right there? That's unusual. So in most carbon saunas, you're almost always, maybe save for the exception of one other brand, you're always going to see like a type of cloth. It's trying to get a resolution on the reflection. Anyways, it's smooth, okay? Obviously, you can see my reflection in it. Now, most sauna companies, they're usually putting a type of fabric cover over this. So that's an important thing to note. You can usually see it right on a company's website when you look at close-up images. Why do other companies put fabric over it? 2 reasons. 1, to prevent sweat from dripping on it, and dirt and things like that. The vertical ones don't really get too dirty, but I do notice sometimes on the back wall, after like a week or 2, I might find a drop of sweat or 2, something like that, and I can easily wipe and clean this down. If you have fabric, it does block that from happening, but then potentially the fabric will get dirty, and you can't necessarily clean the fabric. Some companies do it to prevent being burned, although that's not really a commonly reported issue, honestly, with the sauna that doesn't have the covers, and mostly because it's obvious, because you actually already have some protection right here that the person's leaning into, or if they wanted to put an extra backrest as well. Most saunas have these, by the way. They're just adjustable. You can put it wherever you want. The color is different because this is actually cedar, and then the sauna itself, that is actually basswood. And this brand only produces basswood, 100% basswood, I should add. So the entire sauna, the frame of it, every aspect of the sauna is solid basswood. Only a few companies, very few, that are kind of more closer to medical grade, actually only produce the solid wood type, the same wood type. Many companies, even popular ones, will use plywood in the roof or ceiling, particleboard, or use like hemlock interior framing. It's actually quite common. So you always want to ask, is it the same wood type through and through the sauna? So you got this side, you have another inner piece as well. And when you're putting a sauna together, if you look at the side of the sauna, you can actually see the different layers. But there's the inside, then there's wood framing inside of that, and then there's the exterior side of the sauna. So potentially some companies are essentially underneath the floor and above the ceiling on the exterior. If you got a roof and stood on the top, a lot of saunas you'll see a big plywood sheet essentially. And I think there's a little bit of concern in a gray area as to because of how plywood is manufactured with different sorts of adhesives and sometimes formaldehyde, and peace of mind. And there might be some peace of mind with getting the same wood type through and through. So anyways, these are removable. Now, if you've watched my infrared thermal camera imaging video, and there'll be a website where I'm mounting thermal imaging photos with a $7,000 camera from FLIR, F-L-I-R, that has images taken of all the leading brands. And we can actually look at the actual heat signatures of the front of these emitters compared to other brands. And what you'll see is sometimes with a lot of fabrics, depending on the material they're made out of, it will greatly diminish the amount of heat coming through, the amount of infrared. So lot of times fabrics can be a drawback for that reason. There might be an exception with one fabric I've tested that's pretty highly porous, where the heat is coming through pretty well. If you have any questions about that, you can always ask me. But basically, that's one of the reasons this company chose to not have anything over this, was to allow more heat intensity to actually come through, because their emitters are already a very high watt density. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is, let me back outside here. All right, so if you have a look, I'm gonna have to take one of these off here. Bear with me a second. There's actually something I want to show you underneath the bench. So again, these are just magnets that are holding those frames in place, very easy to remove. Okay, so this is of course where your power supply is. As you can see, now you see those complete form molded plugs. And do you see how thick that wiring is? That gauge of wire, I believe it's 16. You don't see a lot of companies, there's very few, just a couple out there that have that level of quality electrical components, and just kind of like safety guidelines. You'll see some things that are just not the best practice with a lot of brands, including even some main brands, some popular brands. Anyways, that's ideally what we want to see. But that's not really what I was pointing out. Was a lot of times you'll find the power supply underneath a bench in a sauna, and then some people have the concern of, are there electromagnetic fields, ELF or EMF, coming up from that? Now, what do you think that is right there? That's actually going to be an aluminum type of adhesive sheet. And now what's that yellow thing right there? So that's actually grounding through a metal wire and screw. It's grounding and conductive to the sheet. So if there's any sort of electrosmog coming up, any waves, that's just going to basically ground that there and essentially out through the neutral grounding point of the power supply. So I have tested some saunas around the bench area, and basically it's not super common, but sometimes you do find some electrosmog over the bench where the person is seated. So that's, again, why this is an EHS model sauna from Sun Stream Saunas. Electro hypersensitivity, EHS is what it stands for. And in another video, I am going to actually test the electrosmog. So stay tuned and watch that video titled Sun Stream Saunas EHS Electrosmog Testing. Thanks. If you have any questions, by the way, you can find my website below in the YouTube description, healthhacksreview.com.